Welcome to the August 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Beavercreek Rotary Club. I'd like to thank our speakers today, Beth Kuzak, who stepped in for Alex, and Chief Beavercreek, Eric Marcus for several things. Beth Handworker for the setup, and she's working on the computer, getting that all ready to go. Pete Bills, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Swick for the programs, and Jim Gundel for the website. Danny, you're available, ready?
Great. So, thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Would you please join me in prayer? O Holy Creator, let us renew our obligations to fulfill the expectations, just as the return of fall renews harvest growth around the world around us, with new commitments to help others in our community, in our nation, in our world. With the power, influence, and wealth that we as leaders in this place most certainly have, let us remember that these are blessings from you, and that charity is more fulfilling than decadence, and the golden rule, much richer yardstick than any bank account. Amen.
Amen.
Secretary's report, Joe Jenkins.
Somebody thought it was that.
Hello, David.
Oh,
Dennis.
here. And Karen's here. Brian,
Karen.
take that. Is that?
Gotta go into
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A.
Now, your guest we're gonna charge, right?
Huh?
Your guest is coming, we're gonna charge for being late.
Well,
Yeah.
prepare your chicken.
Yeah. And I'll be cash.
Oh, we call them work.
All right, next on the agenda is, Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Hadley. Don't get carried away.
Come on.
Feel so honored now with all those applause. All right, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, guests, our incredible speaker. Today is August 23rd, aka the 232nd day of the year. We'll blow through some anniversaries and birthdays real quick. That's all that we have for this upcoming week. Our member anniversaries, we have Charles and Randy celebrating 4 years. Sorry, Charles 6 years, Randy with 4 years. Got a couple of wedding anniversaries coming up this week. Both Brian Jarvis and Dan Tobias are celebrating their anniversary on the 25th. Brian celebrating 22 years and Dan celebrating 51 years with his wife. Move on to some good things that happened on this day in history. Going all the way back to 1839, the UK abolishes the pillory as a form of punishment. In related news, the Ohio Renaissance Festival is next weekend, and if I remember correctly, the pillory is not abolished there. So take your kids or grandkids, nieces and nephews, and have some fun with them. A couple years after that, in 1864, International Red Cross was founded at the First Geneva Convention. The Red Cross was definitely a great thing to come out of that convention. What they also did is that treaty established rules for the treatment of wounded and the protection. Sorry, treating the wounded soldiers and protection of medical personnel during the wars. Fast forwarding to 1978, Kobe Bryant was born. Pop quiz for all you basketball or Kobe Bryant fans. What were the two numbers that he wore in the NBA? I'll have to find you for that one. So the two numbers that he wore in the NBA were 8 and 24. Bonus question, which I don't think anyone's going to get this based off the first one. Does anyone know what number he wore in the Olympics?
Ooh,
In the Olympics, he wore number 10. Coincidentally, the men's USA basketball team recently won the gold medal in the Olympics. Anyone want to take a guess at the date that they won the gold medal?
10.
8, 10, 24. And so if you are one of those conspiracy theorists or love to see things come to fruition, that's pretty neat because he did win 2 gold medals with the Olympic team. One he played, and kind of cool to see that they won the gold on that date as well. Moving on to 1980, David Bowie reached #1 in UK single chart with a song called "Ashes to Ashes." That's before my time, so I don't know if it was any good or not, but it did make news. It did make news as being the most expensive music video ever created at that time, costing about 328,000 American dollars. Moving on to 1989, the astounding nonviolent singing revolution for the Baltic independence from the Soviet Union reached a peak when Latvians, Estonians, and Lithuanians joined hands to form a 400-mile human chain connecting the three capitals. Next year, another bad year for the Soviet Union. Armenia declares independence from the Soviet Union, following a wave of national movements across the USSR. This also kind of led to the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which I think is a good thing as well. In 1992, Dennis Eckersley, a Major League Baseball player, recorded the most consecutive saves in a row of 40. Also became the first pitcher to ever record 40 saves in 4 separate seasons. He also nearly won every award while pitching in his career. One accomplishment that might make you go, gosh, he was pretty darn good. He was one of the first 2 pitchers ever in Major League Baseball history to have had a 20-win season and a 50-save season in their career, as he was a starter who then turned to a reliever. To kind of put a perspective on the 50-save season, and all the years baseball has been around, there are only 17 pitchers who have had 50-plus saves in one season. The other person who had the 20 wins and 50 saves is a guy by the name of John Smoltz. And if you're a Reds fan from the 90s, you despise that guy and the 3 other pitchers from the because how good they were in the 90s. Moving on, former Dayton Dragon and future Joey Votto announced his retirement from baseball. I think we all agree he was a tremendous baseball player, but if you have not seen him do any interviews or hecklers, it is fantastic. Definitely look it up on YouTube. It is a good laugh. Earlier in this month, Botswana got some international attention when Leslie Tobago upset the world winning the 200-meter men's dash. Well, now they've made even more news by discovering the second largest diamond ever measuring 2,492 carats uncut. The company that owns the mine claims that it is a high quality diamond, and once it gets cut down and is ready for sale, it could reach a price tag of $69 million. So if you are interested, start saving up now. We've got a little bit of time for them to get it cut and ready to sell. Also, if you receive a letter saying that your Energy Service East is taking you can pull that up into a ball and they'll code as you throw it into a trash can, as it was sent out in error. Also, if you want to help Chief out and kind of fuel your inner detective skills, there are a handful of people doing knuckleheaded things that are caught on camera that you can view on the City of Beavercreek Police Department's Facebook page. So if you know those knuckleheads that you see, or if you want to do some digging, definitely help them out. I'm not sure there's any kind of finder speed, but I'm sure we'll be happy to talk about that if you bring these knuckleheads to him or his detectives. All right, let's fly through some things to celebrate today in the upcoming week. So today we got National Ride the Wind Day, which can be celebrated by either visiting the Air Force Museum, or if you're like our friend Kelly West, you always go skydiving with Skydive Green County. Coincidentally, it's also Cheap Flight Day, which I think skydiving might be considered a flight. Moving on to tomorrow, it's Kobe Bryant Day because it's 8/24. There's also another guy we can celebrate tomorrow who also made a large enough impact in his career, one that they actually named a university after him. It is Wilberforce Day. And also tomorrow, I encourage you all to take a moment of silence. Tomorrow is the day in history that Pluto went from being a full planet to a dwarf planet against its will as well. So definitely give it a moment of silence, because I'm sure we all grew up know that Pluto was a planet, and now kids these days don't know what that's like. Kind of bummed Brandon couldn't be here because Sunday is National Park Service Founders Day. Fun fact, Ohio has 8 national parks, and one of them just happens to be in the city of Wilberforce. We also have National Secondhand Wardrobe Day, which we've been a big part of, or some of us both. We also have National Whiskey Sour Day. Monday is going to be a great day for women. It is National Got Checked Day, National Women's Equality Day, and National Mistress Day. On that one, I had to look into to get some clarity because it's not what I thought it was. It is recognizing women who design websites, which I think they could have picked a better title.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Okay. I got one good joke. All right, Tuesday, we got National Just Because Day. And if you're competitive, it is also National Tug of War Day, which, fun fact, that used to be an Olympic event. It's also World Rock, Paper, Scissors Day, which I think that should be an Olympic event. Wednesday is National Power Rangers Day. It's also Crackers Over the Keyboard Day, which crackers over your keyboard and sending pictures to your IT people and having them have an aneurysm with the mess they have to read. And then on a Thursday, big one, very important one is National Individual Rights Day. For some things to do, we got a lot of things this week, and as summer is coming to a close, tonight we have a party at the Plaza at Day Ballpark from 5:30 to 7:30, with the Dragons game starting at 7:05. The annual Trans Am Nationals kicks off at Beavercreek Holiday Inn, and we also have the Bellbrook Lions Club hosting their 77th Summer Fest in Bellbrook tonight and all day tomorrow. Moving on tomorrow, Greater Dayton Corvettes Club will have their Corvettes and Coffee at the Air Force Museum. You got Art Fest down in Springboro. If you volunteered with Beaver Creek Wetlands Association, they have a lunch for you tomorrow at Old Scratch that you will need to RSVP. And kids or young ones that enjoy Kung Fu Panda at the YMCA through the Greene County libraries, they will be showing Kung Fu Panda 4 free of charge. And then for all of us that love nachos and tacos, head down to Austin Landing tomorrow from 3 to 10 and to enjoy the Taco and Nacho Fest. Other than that, Thursday, the city of Beavercreek will have their town hall at Main Elementary from 6 to 8. And now on to our favorite part, today's fines. So, been a little heavy on fines recently, so I'm just going to do 2 outside the standard ones. Sorry, Jane, you kind of set yourself up for this one. If you never yell out Kobe while throwing something into the trash, that's $1. And to get an early start on Monday's celebrations, if you are not a woman, that is $1. I won't call out who was late, but if you were late, that's $1 as well. John?
Thank you, Chris. It's why a little started to get back into it. Now, I'm going to see that. Happy Bucks. Eric.
Okay, so I've got Captain Bug. I don't know how many I'll give. I think I'll probably just give it 5. So my niece and nephew-in-law visited yesterday. 3 slightly ADD, 2 nephews and great nephews and great nieces. That's what you call them. And so we went to properly the National Museum of the United States Air Force, which is an excellent babysitter for active children. We spent like most of the day there, and then we went and had dinner like at some brewery and walked across the street and saw the Dayton Dragons win in the bottom of the 9th on a walk-off single after I think a walk and 2 errors or a pass ball or something and then a base hit. So it was a good day.
Very good. Anybody else?
I got one, Beaver Creek football starts tonight, home against Senior, the backyard battle.
Oh,
Gonna be beautiful weather for, well, hopefully their first of many W's this season.
I have that written down to talk about that because I have to be there. I'm hoping that I can accept the trophy back from the They got the old coach thing.
I had a happy 5. My grandson and his wife, especially his wife, Melena, brought into the world my 4th great granddaughter.
Wow.
Lenora was brought into the world. Lenora. Cute.
Have all of my kids up,
Last name is Gwen.
3 in college. My daughter left us just enough room for my husband and I to take a string bag with us when we drop her off at the bus station. But we did get everything in there and she'll airing next week. And then my son will be graduating in December from Purdue, a daughter at UD, and then my son's at high school. So I was happy we made it. Everybody's flying. Like that.
Yeah, this time of year is a little bit hectic. School. Anyone else? Again, we're not a real happy group. We're gonna get something done. Ticket drawing. Tickets and tickets. It's right. The number is 117-5253. Joy, hey, look at that. Yeah. We're looking for the Queen of Hearts. Yeah, at the proceeds goes in our research program. That's the Jeremy on the wall. How could it be? Bart Groves, very good. Any announcements for the good of the club? So I have a couple. We have 2 remaining slots for Saturday at the Popcorn Festival from 6 to 8. If we could fill in that form right there, sure that would be make somebody really happy. Also, go along with what Chris said, since the police academy is going to be starting up very soon, and I think there's still a few slots left in that, 2 slots left in that. If you've never been to that, I highly recommend going. It's well worth your time and effort to see what our police department does. They do a great job putting it together. So, any more announcements? I'm going to ask our guest, David Hayes, to come forward and introduce our speakers. Thank you.
Don, thank you very much. Sorry. Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce you in person. To tell you just a little bit about Amy, I have to tell you one of the unfortunate realities of our lives, which is that children are victims of crime. And unfortunately, they are often victims of some really terrible things, things that I won't go into, but you already know what they are because you see them on the news, you see them on your feed online. And Amy is the director of a little place called Michael's House, which is a child advocacy center that's here in Greene County. It's Greene County's only child advocacy center. And the purpose of Michael's House, and I don't want to steal Amy's thunder, is to help children. Now, she will tell you how they do that, but I just want to tell you a little bit about Amy. Amy has been with Dayton Children's, who oversee Michael's House is connected to Dayton Children's for 11 years. And prior to that, she's been working in the child welfare field for 27 years. She originally worked for Children's Services, and importantly, for the Greene County Prosecutor's Office, and this is how I got to know Amy. Amy was a forensic interviewer of children. So when children go through those awful things that I just told you about, unfortunately, for the criminal justice system to do anything about it, and the help that they need, they have to tell somebody. He was one of those people who was specially trained to talk to kids about some of the worst experiences they can ever have. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Amy Burks. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. If you guys are okay and can hear me, no, got to use the mic. Okay. I'm very fidgety, so I apologize in advance. Get my clicker. So as David told you, I have been in the field of child welfare for 27 years. It's a long time, but before we get into Michael's house and kind of my role there and what we do, I did want to share just a little bit about me personally. I have been married for 26 years to my college sweetheart. We have 3 children, 23, 21, and 18. The baby just got off to UC, so I'm very excited. She's starting her freshman year at school as well. Um, I got my degree in criminal justice and never saw myself going into child welfare. I thought I was going to either be in the FBI or a detective. I was very investigative mindset. So once I graduated, I did not want to be a burden on my parents. So I took one of the first jobs that I came across, which was child welfare and child protective services. And to say it stole my heart in a different kind of way is kind of an understatement. So you sound a little bit warped if you say that your passion is child abuse or working with kids who are abused. That's not exactly the passion. The passion is making a difference in a kid's life every single day. And that's what I felt with child welfare. And that's why I've stayed in this world for 27 years and hopefully for 20 more years. With that, I will let you know that I was introduced into the Child Advocacy Center world through Warren County. Dayton Children's, as David said, has 3 advocacy centers: Care House in Montgomery County, the Child Advocacy Center in Warren County, and Michael's House in Greene County, all under the Dayton Children's umbrella. What that means is they service our 501c3 organization, but each of our centers are responsible for raising our own money and funding ourselves and our programs. Dayton Children's does a tremendous job with support through IT, through accounting, and all of those avenues, but our operations may work through in-kind donations, grants, fundraising, those sorts of things to make sure our doors stay open. So it is no small feat to be a child advocacy center, and we are excited. This slide is about a year old, so we are moving into our 16th year. So to tell you guys about Michael's house, I'm sure many of you, that's the laser pointer. So sorry. Yeah. So
I know what the problem is.
you do.
Yeah. There's somebody.
Yeah.
What the-
Bring back the overhead projector.
Well,
Yeah, right.
you probably know Bill and Elaine Mercurio. They're the founders of Michael's House, and I don't have to tell many of you who are nodding your heads what wonderful people they are. So in order to really understand Michael's House, I want to tell you how it all started. And many of you, if you know, to add to the story, please feel free to jump in. Elaine Mercurio was a volunteer at Dayton Children's Hospital. She did many things at the hospital, but she also made quilts for Care House. At the time, was the only advocacy center in the area. She learned about the Child Advocacy Center model, and when tragedy struck her family with the loss of her son, Michael, she knew that Greene County needed a better way for the kids that we serve here. And it was on the same day that she found out about the passing of her son that she made a phone call to Dayton Children's and said, "We will build this in Greene County. We will build it in honor of my son, and we will serve kids as he served." And she has stood true to that mission and that passion from that terrible day that she received that phone call. What I will say about the Mercurios and the many people who helped build Michael's House, they built the Taj Mahal of child advocacy centers out of love and support. Our facility is beyond beautiful. It's beyond remarkable for what our kids need. I'm so proud of that, and would be happy to take each and every one of you through a tour anytime you want to stop by to see it. So Elaine knew that there was a better way for kids. And like I said, out of her tragedy, she created something remarkable for the kids of Greene County. And for 16 proud years, we've been serving the kids in that capacity. So what is a Child Advocacy Center? Basically, we are a one-stop shop for kids to come to. As David said, kids unfortunately go through unspeakable things that they are told to keep secret, that they are told will tear apart their family, that they shouldn't ever tell. If they do, someone will get hurt or someone will go to prison, and kids keep that to themselves. We don't want them to have to do that. And so we, through the Child Advocacy Center model, have created a safe space for kids to come and tell their truth and their story so that they know that there's healing in the future for them. As you can see on the slide, I don't want to read just the slides to you guys, but really the main purpose of it is this hub for our investigators to come through too, so our children don't have to repeat themselves over and over again. There is consistency and collaboration in the investigative response to these kids and the stories that they have to tell. We don't have to worry about missing kids or kids falling through the cracks because we provide a place for everyone to come, or for even if there's a question about whether or not a case should come through our center, people can always call and talk to us about that. So Bud Kramer was a congressman and a prosecutor out of Huntsville, Alabama. In 1985, he was not getting the result that he wanted as a prosecutor. And he said, there's a better way. These kids deserve more. I want a better record, to be completely honest. How can we make things better for the kids that are coming through our system and coming through courts? And so because of Bud Kramer, the Child Advocacy Center model was created. So back in 1985, that's when it all started. So this is how things look. This is the best graphic that I have ever come across to tell you or explain what a Child Advocacy Center is. So picture Robin. Robin's 5. She's in her 3rd week of kindergarten. But she's got a secret that she's been told not to tell, and it's weighing on her. She decides to go to her teacher and tell her teacher because her teacher says she can trust her. Teacher hears the truth here's Robin's truth, takes it to the school counselor and says, this happened. Robin then tells her story to the school counselor. School counselor says, that's above my pay grade, let's get the principal involved. Takes Robin to the principal. She tells the principal the same story. Principal says, bring in the SRO because I don't know what to do with this. Again, the story. Better get the school nurse. Again, the story. So by this time, one little child who was afraid to even talk at the very beginning has now told her story 6 times, and that hasn't even left the school. So there's a better way. And this is what we do now. Robin is the center, and everyone else comes to her. So when an allegation or a report of child abuse is made, that is called into Children's Services or law enforcement, and those folks call us, and then we start the coordinated care for these kids. It's a joint response so that these children only have to tell their story one time to trained interviewers in a room where the investigators can watch closed circuit. It's a really remarkable setting. And as a forensic interviewer for 8 years, it will never, ever cease to amaze me. These kids come in with their stories, their truths, the things that they need to say, and sit across from you and tell you that because they are in a place where they feel safe, secure, and supported by a team of adults who said that it's their very role to make sure that these kids don't have to hurt anymore. So we work with a multidisciplinary team. They're listed up here on the screen for you. That includes Children's Services, law enforcement, the prosecutor's office, victim advocacy, mental health, medical team, and my CAC staff. To say that Greene County has a remarkable MDT is a true understatement. We are completely and totally supported from our multidisciplinary team. From David's office to the sheriff's office to Children's Services, we work hand in hand to make sure that our efforts at the CAC are top notch for these kids that we serve, because they deserve nothing less than that. And through the support of our MDT, we continue to learn and grow and do better for kids. Not every single one of our MDT members are involved in every single case. Sometimes it's not appropriate for Children's Services to be involved. There may not be an actual child protection issue, but a crime may have occurred, and vice versa. Our referrals do come from those two people, from Children's Services and law enforcement. Although other team members can call, the majority of our cases come from those two individuals. I'm going to pause real quick. I didn't say it, I apologize. If I'm talking too fast, let me know. Also, if you guys have any questions at any time, I'm super informal. Just shout them out, raise your hand. I'm happy to to check in with you guys. Anybody have anything in so far? Are we doing all right? Okay, perfect. So oftentimes we want to know what it is, why they benefit from a child advocacy center. Why is this the best model for them? It reduces the trauma, one, because they're only telling their story one time. We don't have to worry about the fact that because the brain, and when kids go through trauma, it's a very interesting, part of our body. It doesn't always remember everything the way that we think that it would. So if Susie tells you a story and then comes in and tells me a story and then tells you a story, her story's not inconsistent. She's just remembering it a little bit different because her brain has gone into protection mode. Any kind of hurt, you go into protection mode, whether that be physical or emotional. So we want to reduce further trauma. Our motto is first, do no harm. We will not push a child to talk to us. We will encourage, we will explain, we will show them everything about the center, but we will never make somebody speak to us that doesn't want to. Full successful linkage to services. I think one of the most remarkable things about being under Dayton Children's is they have provided us with 3 mental health therapists on site that we refer our kids to every time they come through. In addition to that, we also offer medical services to every single child. What I'm here to tell you, medical services don't just look for evidence. They also tell children that everything is okay with their body. And that is more important than any evidence collection ever could be. Supporting of non-offending caregivers. This one's a big one, and we're working with our community partners often in this arena. We all know that kids are super, super important, but if our parents and our non-offending caregivers aren't healthy, then our kids are not going to get what they need. And so if we fall short with, providing them with services or referrals, then they're not going to be able to show up for their kiddos the way that they need to. Holding their offender accountable. This is David's job that he does very well. There's probably never an amount of times that I think that offenders are completely held as accountable to see them be held. However, I have to remind myself every single day in this field that my justice isn't these kiddos' justice. Oftentimes, these children just want these acts to stop. They're not looking for someone to go to jail, to go to prison. They're not looking for their families to be disrupted. They just want the behavior to stop. A team supporting them at child-focused facility. All I can tell you about the child-focused facility is come out and check it out. It really, truly is a remarkable place. I can't take any credit for the building that's there. What I am proud of is the services that we provide. And my goal is always to make sure that what's happening inside the building matches the exterior and how beautiful it is. A team supporting them, I think probably some of my most rewarding times are the times that I've told children that there's a team that supports them. There's a team of adults that believe their truth, that believe their story, that are there to support them and back them up, no matter what it is they have to say. And just to see that they are believed and see the shift in their eyes and a little bit lighter load on their shoulders after they told. So here are types of abuse. One that I would add that's not listed, we see all kinds of cases. Witness to violence is something that's pretty and oftentimes forgotten. That could be kids who are witnessing domestic violence in the home. That could be kids who have witnessed some type of violent act, burglary, robbery, any of those kinds of things. We will talk with them and then make sure that they are linked to the appropriate services as well. Sexual abuse is so far reaching, and I won't go down a terrible path with you guys today because I feel oftentimes when I talk about Michael's house, it leaves kind of this sense of dread and gloom and doom that our children are going through terrible things. That's not the message that I wanted to deliver to you guys today. What I want to deliver is are going through terrible things, but because places like Michael's house exist, and because I want to continue to be there for them in the years to come, they have a path for the journey of healing. We provide the services for them so that these things that happen in their lives are just that. They're just things in their road to recovery, or glimmers in their rearview mirror as they move on their journey and healing. That's what Michael's house is. It's not the bad that brings them in, it's the good we send them out with. So here's a few stats. These aren't gloom and doom, I'm not gonna lie. 1 in 10 kids are sexually abused by their 18th birthday, and that's only includes physical contact. One thing that I don't have to talk to you guys a lot about is the internet and what kids have access to on the internet now. That has opened a new world of complexity in the area of child advocacy and forensic interviewing. 90% of child victims know their abuser, and it's somebody that they trust. These sexual abuse crimes are crimes of secret. And so they, of course, trust the person that's doing something horrible to them because it's such a close, in proximity act that they have to be able to trust them. They have to be one-on-one. So 90% of the kids, family, coaches, best friends, neighbors. Just when you think you've heard it all, you hear one more. Only 38% of child victims of sexual abuse ever tell somebody about their abuse. And this one has always kind of struck me. The average age that a person reports that they were sexually abused as a child is 52 years old. We only know what we know of the kids that come and talk to us, and that's just a fraction. Delayed disclosures are most common. We talked about this just a little bit, or I talked to you guys about this just a little bit. There's so many things that could go wrong if a child tells what's happening to them. All of those things that they were promised. Somebody goes to jail, their family's torn apart, they never see their dog again. All of those very real things to a child keeps them from talking about the bad things that are happening to them. So oftentimes it's years later, months, years, that they will talk about something, that a negative experience or something that's happened to them. Talk just briefly about our funding. We are very fortunate for the last 2 years to be added into the state budget, but that was only for 2 years. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that that stays as a permanent line item in the state budget. Advocacy centers across the state of we're one of the few states that we are not funded through the state budget. Governor DeWine did fix that last year. We have another round of funding for this year, but as I said, it's not a permanent line item. That's something that we're working on. So we do have grants. We have national, state, and local grants that we apply for. Donations, both in kind and monetary donations. What I will say about our facility is Greene County is a very generous community and county, and where every child that comes through our center leaves with a snack, a blanket, and some type of toy. And these kids absolutely light up when they see our toy room, that they get to pick something that is their choice, that they get to pick a color blanket, that they get to pick Doritos over Fritos. They get just a little bit of their choice, of their decision making, of their strength back by being able to make those choices. None of that could happen without the in-kind donations from the community, and we truly are blessed with that in Greene County. We have fundraisers, so I'm going to take this opportunity to plug our current fundraiser. We are going to be doing, it's called Happy Hour to help kids. It's at the Wandering Griffin Brewery over by Wright State. This is our 3rd year for that, and this year we have live music. I am beyond excited about it. We have created a signature craft lager for the event. It's called Merck's Craft Lager, to honor both Bill and Michael. And we would love to see each and every one of you guys out there. September 28th is the day for that. And then partner support. We have, like I said, tremendous support across the county with our community partners that help make sure that we get to do exactly what it is that we say we want to do for kids every single day. Opportunity to talk about your Fantastic 50, or you want me to keep rolling with that?
Thanks, Amy. So we have put together I wouldn't say novel fundraising effort, but we are focusing on trying to get 50 local house at a certain level. So far, we've gotten 21 local businesses to help us out. And those businesses include, I think, members of Rotary, Brian, your insurance company is assisting us. Modern Monuments is assisting us. Jamie's Tire is assisting us, who has businesses all throughout Greene County. So if you're interested in supporting Michael's House, as a local business, please come and see me afterwards, and I'll make sure you get the information. Also, I cannot impress upon you enough how impactful Michael's House is in enforcing the law against these perpetrators. And can I give a couple examples? So you may have heard about this in the past couple of years. There was a young woman who had been, a girl, she's about 11 years old. She's being abused. She lived in a house just off the golf course with 4 adults in the home, 3 women, a total of 14 children, and 1 man in the house. And the 1 man in the house was abusing her physically. This was not a sexual abuse case, it was an actual physical abuse case where this young lady, remarkably, at least remarkable to me, because again, she's only 11 years old, had the courage to just decide one day that this was going to stop. And she actually ran away. She went to school after her parents had pulled her out of school. So she wasn't even supposed to be at school. But she developed a plan to escape this house, to go to school, and then to run away from school. And it was after she ran away that she finally was able to tell her story to law enforcement. And law enforcement, of course, the first thing that they do, this is a protocol that we have here in Greene County. The first thing that they do is they make a referral to Michael's House so that that child does not have to repeat and repeat and repeat what was going on. Because the reality is, and she hasn't said this directly, but I'll say it directly, children, have you ever talked to a child? You ever talked to a child under the age of 10? Have you ever told a story? And how far, where is that story? Where does it end up? Where does it go? All right. Now, of course, when you're in the garish light of a courthouse and you're being subject to cross-examination by a defense attorney, what to us seems like what happens when a child talks all of a sudden becomes something that isn't the truth. Now, we know that's not the case, but it's really hard to convince people that that's not the case. So that's what makes Michael's House so important, is that that child, instead of telling 6 different versions of the same event, and with what we know are going to be differences. We don't call them inconsistencies, but of course defense attorneys do. They have the chance to tell that story one time to somebody who is actually trained on how to talk to a child. Jeff, I'm going to ask the chief, how many of your officers are trained to talk to 6-year-old children about trauma? Not too many. And you can imagine, God, just go back 20 years. I want you to imagine a 50-year-old cop who's been on the force for 20 years, and all of a sudden they're trying to talk to maybe an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old victim about what has happened to them. How do you think that conversation is going to go? Yeah. And that's why Michael's House is so important. That's why child advocacy centers themselves are so important. And let me get back to my story. So after this young girl had the courage to come forward, she was interviewed at Michael's House, and somebody that you know very well, and Judge Capelli knows very well, Judge Hine, who now sits with Judge Capelli in Fairmont Municipal Court, while he was working in my office as my chief trial counsel, prosecuted that man, and that man is now sitting in a prison cell. And Michael's House is part of the reason that that happened. So even if you can't give for the Fantastic 50, consider donating, and certainly consider coming out to the happy hour. You said the 28th, what time?
5 to 8.
5 to 8. If you haven't been to the Laundry District before, if you like beer, shame on you, because it's pretty good. Oh, silent auction, a lot of opportunities to help Michael's House and help at any level would be appreciated. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. I will say that this is an amazing thing that not one other advocacy center across the state of Ohio has done. David took the initiative to start the Fantastic 50, and I take pride in saying that at our membership meetings quarterly. I have a prosecutor who knows how important we are that he took the initiative to raise money on his own. No one else can say that, so kudos to you, David. This is my contact information. I have some business cards as well. I do apologize. I ran out of the office yesterday without any of our Wandering Griffin flyers, which I'm kind of kicking myself for that. I do apologize. But I want to take this opportunity to see what questions you guys might have. Yes.
Amy, if you wouldn't mind, tell them a little bit about the courtroom that's actually there.
Oh, yes. That's actually my favorite room in the whole entire building. As David said, I worked in child welfare, but I was also a victim advocate for a number of years in Warren County. Through that role, I was able to take kids and get them prepared for trial with our prosecutor at the time. We didn't have a facility like this. There is a mock courtroom in the back of the Advocacy Center that is remarkable. It takes the unknowing. You know, kids only have the images that they see on TV with regard to what a courtroom would look like. And it's scary. And they need to know that the person that hurt them is going to be sitting right across the aisle from them. They need to know the layout of what that's going to look like. But before they actually go to the actual courtroom, we have a mock courtroom at Michael's house that can get them prepared. They're still in the environment, that safe environment where they first told their story, where they've been going through therapy, where they see friendly faces. So it takes that unknowing, that unsure, that anxiety away from them by being able to see it. So thank you for that. It's my favorite room in the building. Amanda?
Where do you list what's needed?
Where do we list what's needed? So our Facebook page, sometimes we'll direct you, but mostly our web page. If you go to our Michael's House web page, we have an Amazon wish list on there, and we update that often with things that we need. Yes.
How many of these cases or situations do you have a month? Do you have 5, 6, 7, 4?
So we see 300 kids, about 300 kids annually. Months kind of fluctuate. Sometimes when kids are in the start of school, we always have a little bit heavier month. So we'll see probably somewhere between 30 to 35 kids. When kids are out on break, because there's no eyes on them, we have a little bit less, but around 300. And 350 is typically what we see. During COVID, crazily enough, in 2020, we saw 450 kids. Yeah. Yes.
Where is your building? Is it in senior?
So our building is located in Fairborn. It's on Rainbow Port's the street, but it's right off of Dayton Yellow Springs Road, right where the urgent care and the BP is. It's across the street from the Fairborn High School. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit of your involvement, not just when they walk in the door initially, but how does that work? Till they
kind of through the life of their, yeah. So, you know, we do the forensic interview and everything as they walk in the door. So I'll just take you through kind of a brief when they get there. We talk with parents, we show parents and kids the interview room together because we think it's really important that parents know where their child's going to be when they're talking about these things, and that kids know exactly where their parent is going to be. We will go through that whole process of the investigation. Kids will be interviewed. Then we take some time with the parents to meet the team, the multidisciplinary team that's watching from the other room. They will answer any questions that they have, talk about next steps of the investigation. That's when my staff, I have 2 family service coordinators that not only do interviews, but they also refer for services. So my staff will then talk with the non-offending caregiver about medical and mental health referrals. That's where we start the healing process after they've told their story. So we will refer them to our 3 clinicians there at Michael's house, and then we have board certified pediatric child abuse specialists at Dayton Children's. We have 3. That is unheard of. We don't have that many across the state of Ohio. And then we have 2 nurse practitioners that work with our medical team. Those referrals are made for services, and our clinicians and our medical staff will walk through counseling, the next steps, understanding their trauma, how to deal with that, coping skills over the course of the next several weeks. We've had some kids that age out at 22. So in particular, there was a young lady that came to see me when she was 14. She did not disclose at that time. She came back at 16 and actually apologized to me for lying the first time she was there. She was able to tell her story, and she had 6 years with her therapist, and she is doing very, very well, a young mother and doing really good in her career. So we will stay with them. Oftentimes, kids don't feel like they need counseling, so they will step away from it. We always welcome them back. They know that they can give us a call if something happens when they're 5, but they don't really start to process that until they're 13 because of the age of puberty and things, then we'll bring those kids back in. Yes.
I was really stunned about the conversation you had about how many people they talk to in the schools. Even get to a referral to law enforcement or to you. I guess imagine you train the schools just to contact you and not to have them regurgitate the story.
Yes, so what we try really hard to do, and we, every district is different, we try to really kind of encourage let's not ask them too many questions, gather the information and make the appropriate referrals to law enforcement and child protective services, and then those folks will contact us. I'm very excited to say that this first year is our first year of an awareness and outreach specialist position that we have at Michael's House. His name is Archer Thomas, and he's doing a really good job. He's getting into the schools and trying to do some real education and talking, but PD days and taking opportunities to educate us to not one person who talks to a kid is trying to be hurtful. They don't understand. They just don't understand kind of what happens. So just that piece of education and understanding, I think, is really big. So yes, we work with the schools. I think there should be a natural bridge between Child Advocacy Center and the schools. Every single day, there are eyes on our kids every day. So I think it's important to have a really good relationship with them. So it's something that we're working on through our awareness and outreach program. And so I'm excited about the opportunities that that's going to bring.
So I just want to comment, Archer came and trained all of my youth services staff who work for the Green County Public Library. And it was just such an awareness for our staff because we see kids that may not be in school.
Yeah.
So it was just a really good training. He did a great job.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'll take that back to him. And to be completely honest, I wasn't even thinking about the library. So when you brought it up to me, I was like, of course you need to go to the libraries. So many kids are in the libraries every single day. And so thank you for that.
Welcome.
Any other questions from anybody? Yes.
Do you all provide training for those that see children that have to go on study or even learning how to go on stuff and get them properly?
Yes. So myself and one other interviewer has been trained to interview kids with different kinds of disabilities. There's some specific training around that. It's really not as complex as it seems because everybody can tell their story. We just have to figure out the way in which those young people will tell their story. But yes, we have 2 people trained. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, I do. I really, truly do want to leave you guys with Michael's House is really, truly a beautiful place. It might be a terrible circumstance that brings a kid to us, but they are leaving lighter and they are leaving with opportunities that they may not be coming to us. So we are, I will look for the rainbows and the butterflies always when it comes to kids. And so I just encourage you guys to check us out and make sure that you tell other people about us. I've been with Michael's House now for 8 years, not 9 years, and it's interesting to me how many people didn't even know we existed. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Maggie. I'm really glad you're there. My wife was an emergency room nurse, charge nurse at Children's back in the 80s. And the abuse that came in then used it. They went to the court. That's against judges, but they put them right back in and it just repeated itself over and over again. So I'm really glad you're there. Thank you very much. As we always do, we have a book dedication to go in the library. Amy's already signed it. It's called A World of Wonder. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Beth, thank you. This meeting is Danny here. And greeters as their speaker, and our greeters are Danny Jarvie and David Brandenburg. Hope David's back. David had a little accident over the weekend, so I think he's doing really well. Upcoming programs at Beavercreekrotary.com. We have our website. And anything else for the good of the club? You know, what's the way you say? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic and the nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Join us. Thank you. Thank you. It's so first. It's careful for everybody. Even they know what the barrel skills. That's
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. Front. I didn't expect this one. This really didn't. Yeah.
How you been, Andy?
Big character say. Grab dogs and we're going to ski. Dog fields and girls. Yeah, yeah.